guys, what's up? In today's video, I'm going to be testing out the brand new Colourpop Neon collection. This has been a pretty controversial launch for Colourpop, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to be creating 3 different eye looks with all 3 of the palettes for you guys. I will be showing you guys close-ups and swatches of everything. So I hope you guys are all excited about today's video. If you are, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So as I said, this launch has caused a lot of drama. I know a lot of people are mad about this collection because it was originally marketed as a neon collection, and then once people saw the pictures and realized that these palettes were basically a neutral palette with 1 neon shade in each palette, they were really mad, and there was a lot of comments on the Colourpop post, the Trend Mood post, all of that about people who were mad about this collection. So Colourpop did go back and change like their whole marketing and how they were advertising this collection, and basically described it now as like neutral palettes with 1 pop of color, which is the 1 neon shade in each of these palettes. So I totally get like both sides. I do see how this is like a neon palette. I mean, the packaging is neon, there is 1 neon shade, and then I also get people who are upset that this is not a full neon palette since it was described as like a neon collection. But honestly, I'm personally like not mad about it. I like the way that these palettes are set up. Like, I don't love them, I don't hate them. I'm just kind of like neutral on the subject. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I feel like a lot of people are like super mad, like starting petitions. Like, I just think it's kind of ridiculous. Like, this is just makeup. I feel like everyone needs to calm down. So if you are someone who really likes neutral palettes and you're wanting to just try out color, you will probably really like these. If you are someone who's looking for a good neon palette, definitely skip these. You're going to want to just buy a neon palette from another brand. Unless you bought all 3, you wouldn't really have neon palettes. So this is really geared toward people who are just trying to start out using color. Maybe they don't want a full colorful palette, so they want like the neutral shades and then the pop of color. So this is more geared towards those type of people. I feel like after all of this, Colourpop is probably going to come out with a full neon collection. Maybe they'll come out with these 5-pan palettes that are like completely neon. That will definitely be super fun. So yeah, as I said, I'm not like mad about this. Like, it doesn't really bother me that much. Colourpop launches so many collections, so like I wasn't even fazed by it at all. I was like, okay, probably they're just gonna come out with a full neon collection later, so I wasn't even worried about it. So yeah, the first thing we're gonna do in this video is I'm gonna show you guys close-ups of all 3 of these palettes. I'm also going to show you guys swatches of the lip oil, so let's go ahead and get started with that. So first up in the neon collection, we have the 3 eyeshadow palettes. We have Neon Gaze, which has our neon yellow shade in it, and then the other shades are neutrals. Let's go ahead and start swatching this palette, starting with the first shade. Next, we have the shade Future. Then we have the neon yellow. Okay, that actually swatched better than I thought it would. Beats. And Kinetic. Alright, so here are the shades from the yellow palette. Next up we have the Moon Haze palette, which is a neon, coral, and neutrals palette. First we have the shade Outlands. Electro. Dream Wave, which is the neon shade in this palette. I don't consider this a neon, but that is the one that's supposed to be neon in this palette. Alright, I guess it does look a little bit more neon swatched, but still, I don't know. To me, that's not like a true neon, but I guess it is closer looking once it's swatched. Quantum. That one did not swatch the best. Let's go ahead and add a little more on top so you guys can really see the color. And the last shade is Astral. I think I'm saying that correctly. So here are the shades from the Moon Haze palette. I personally like this color story better than the yellow palette. Then lastly, we have the Color Vision palette, which is the neon, magenta, and neutrals palette. So I'm first going to swatch the shade Arcade. Wow, that shade is gorgeous. Pixel. That one's very light. I don't even know if you guys are really going to be able to see that. I'm going to go ahead and add a little more on top. That is very, very light. Then we have the neon shade in the palette. Okay, that one swatched pretty nicely. Digital. My swatches are starting to look a little crazy because I'm like going up my arm. And the last shade is called Warp. Alright, so here are all of the swatches from all 3 palettes. Looking at these, I definitely can see myself liking these last 2 palettes. I don't think I'll be the biggest fan of the yellow one, but I do like the other color stories of these palettes. I like these because they have shimmers, a neon, and then like matte neutral shades. Next in this collection, we have 3 Luxe lip oils. I am so glad these are lip oils in this collection because I am not a fan of the Colourpop lip gloss. And for some reason, I thought these were going to be glosses, but I'm so glad to see that they are lip oils. So here are all 3 shades. So first up, we have the shade Hot Spark, which is a coral. I am going to be doing lip swatches of these later on in the video as well, but I'm going to show you guys some arm swatches. As you guys can see, these have a very like sheer amount of color. I really like the Colourpop lip oils, so there is the first shade. Next up, we have the shade Pink Circuit. And the last shade is Cosmic Click, which is a magenta. So there are all 3 shades of the lip oils. So now that you guys have seen close-ups and swatches of everything, I'm going to create the 3 eye looks with these 3 palettes for you guys, and then we're also going to move on to lip swatches of the 3 lip oils. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do, of course, is prime my lids with my P. Louise base. I am going to be doing one eye at a time. And I am going to be doing 3 looks, 1 with each of the palettes. So I'm just going to quickly blend out the primer on this one eye. I like my base to be tacky when I apply shadows. So that's why I'm going to do one eye at a time. So I'm first going to be using the Neon Gaze palette, which is the yellow palette. And I'm going to take the darkest shade in the palette first. And I'm just going to map out my crease with this shade. So this doesn't have to be like precise or anything. I'm just going to kind of messily, is that even a word, map out my crease. Next, I'm going to take the shade Beats, and I'm just going to blend this super close to the first shade, just to kind of blend out those edges. Now I'm going to use the shade Future, and I'm just going to keep doing the exact same thing. I always do this whenever I test out new palettes. I do this kind of like cut crease type look where I just start with the darkest shade and then I keep blending lighter shades above it. And honestly, it looks crazy at first, but once you blend everything out and cut your crease, it looks fine. So it'll probably look bad for a while until we actually have like a lid shade down. And lastly, I'm going to take the lightest matte shade in the palette, and I'm just going to very lightly, once again, blend right above the last shade. So I went ahead and cut my crease off camera with some concealer. Now I'm going to take the neon shade from the palette, and I'm just going to start applying this all over the lid. I'm not really sure what kind of brush I need to use for the shade, but I feel like the one I'm using is probably not the best. Maybe I need like a fluffier one, because this shade like swatched super pigmented and neon, but I feel like with this brush it's looking a little muted. Maybe I should have put down like a lighter base. I'm not sure, but I'm just gonna keep applying this. Maybe if I build it up, it'll look more neon. I'm gonna apply some with my finger as well. There is quite a bit of fallout with this shade, which is kind of bothering me because it's getting all under my eye. So now that the lid is like pretty much done, I think I still need to do some blending over here. I feel like things are looking a little not blended on the outer corner, but we'll fix that in a minute. I'm gonna go ahead and just take the same shades that I used in my crease. First starting with the darkest shade, and I'm just gonna press this right up against the lower lash line. I'm going to try and keep this darkest shade like as close as possible. And then I'll go in with like the next 2 browns, and I'll blend these a little bit underneath the darkest brown. And then with a fluffy brush, I'm going to blend the lightest shade that I put in my crease, and I'm just going to kind of use this to blend everything out. I'm also going to add the neon yellow in the inner corner. Alright, so here is eye look number 1 complete with the yellow palette. I am pretty happy with how it turned out. I will say though that I had a hard time blending these browns over here in the outer corner. I feel like they were just a little bit patchy, which is kind of unusual for Colourpop shadows. I never have any issues blending their eyeshadows out, but Today I did struggle a little bit in the outer corner area. I'm actually really happy with how the yellow shade looks. I feel like it looks nice and neon. It's definitely a neon shade. I do feel like this palette is missing something. I wish they would have not put this shade right here. I feel like the shade is so unnecessary, especially when you have this like completely matte shade. This one has a little bit of shimmer in it, but they are so similar. I feel like they could have added like a metallic, like neon version of this shade. I feel like that would have completed this palette for me, since it is like a neutral palette with a pop of neon. They definitely could have added another neon shade, maybe like a neon shimmery, like, I don't know, topper type of shade that I could have popped in the inner corner that matched like this yellow shade. I feel like that would have like made the palette for me. I don't like dislike it, but I feel like this one is going to be my least favorite out of the three. So now we're going to move on and try out another one of the palettes. I think I'm going to go in with probably the Coral palette next, and I'll do it on this eye. Then we'll go ahead and take this eye off and then try out the last one. So the first shade I'm going to take from this palette is the dark brown. Once again, we're going to start out the look with the darkest shade. So I'm just going to kind of map out my crease. As I said, this doesn't have to be like perfect. I always am kind of like messy with this part. Now I'm going to take the shade called Quantum, and I'm just going to start blending this right along the first shade. We're going to start by packing it on, and then we will start diffusing it out. So now I picked up a little bit of that same shade on a fluffier brush, and I'm just going to lightly blend this out since we don't really have like a third like transition shade. So we're just going to have to shear out this one and make it look a little bit lighter. Moving on to the lid, I'm first going to take the shade Outlands, and I'm just going to put this on the inner half of my lid. That has really nice pigmentation, wow. Now I'm going to take the shade Electro, and I'm going to put this one on the rest of my lid, and then I'll kind of blend the two together. Next, I'm going to take the neon shade from this palette, and we're going to be super basic with this look and just pop this neon all along the lash line. I'm going to kind of just build it up right against the lash line and then blend it out. Alright, so here is eye look number 2 complete with the Moon Haze palette. I actually really like how this one turned out as well. I like the kind of like boring neon on the lower lash line. I feel like it gives it a nice touch. It's kind of fun. I could actually see myself using this palette in a bunch of different ways. Like I feel like you could also use the neon shade in the crease as well. So I can already think of other ways that I would use this palette. I actually like the way that they did this palette with 2 shimmers, 2 mattes, and then the neon matte shade. I think this one is a much more like well-rounded palette compared to the yellow one. So I already like this one better than the last palette. So I went ahead and removed the yellow eye look. Now we're going to go in with the pink palette, and this is the Color Vision palette. I'm first going to take the shade called Warp, and once again we're going to start applying this right in the crease, kind of just mapping out the shape that I want. I was originally going to do like a winged shape, but I kind of want these two eye looks to be similar, I guess, so I'm just going to do a round shape on both. Now I'm going to take the shade Digital, and I'm going to blend that right above the last shade. Next, I'm going to take the shade called Pixel, and with a bigger brush, I'm just going to blend this kind of like, not really precisely, just all above the last shade. So now I'm going to take the shade called Arcade, and I'm just going to start by blending this out from the inner corner. Now I'm going to take the Neon Pink from the palette, and I'm just going to start tapping this on the outer part of the lid. This is going to take a lot of blending, I can already tell. Now I'm going to start blending the shades along the lower lash line that I put in my crease, starting out with the dark brown. And then I'll just blend the other 2 lighter browns, like right underneath the dark brown. So far I'm not really liking the browns in this palette. I feel like these more like kind of like cool tone browns are just kind of patchy, as you guys can see. Like, I feel like the other palettes were not like that. Like, so far, the coral palette, I feel like the mattes had the best, like, pigmentation and blending ability. And then the yellow one was, like, okay. I did have some struggles with the browns, but this one, I'm like really struggling with blending these browns, so I don't know what's going on with this palette. So now I'm going to take the neon pink again, and I'm going to put this in the inner corner, but I'm going to kind of do like a straight line and I don't know what to call this, like a pointy shape. Alright, so here is the completed eye look with the pink palette. I really like the shimmery shade and then the pink shade. The browns weren't my favorite. I feel like they did blend a little bit patchy, but overall I don't like hate it, but definitely not my favorite look. So before I give you guys like my final thoughts on the palettes, we're going to go ahead and do lip swatches of all three of the lip oils. First up we have the shade Hot Spark, which is a coral. My lips are already like a little stained because I did apply one of these for my thumbnail picture. So keep that in mind, these do stain your lips. Man, I wish you guys could see like the true shade of this. I feel like it's kind of like not the same because my lips were stained, so that was a bad idea to apply one of these earlier because I liked this one when I swatched it for my thumbnail picture. So if you want like a more true idea of what it looks like, just look at the picture in my thumbnail because that was without any staining on my lips. But anyways, here is the coral shade. I think this one's probably my favorite out of all three. I really like the Colourpop lip oil formula. Hate the lip glosses, so as I said earlier, I'm so glad that these were lip oils and not lip glosses. Next we have the shade Pink Circuit. So here is this shade. I also really like this one. I like all three of these colors actually. I feel like these are super fun shades for the summertime. So here is the pink shade. And the last lip oil is Cosmic Click. Here is what this shade looks like. This one's also really pretty. This is the one that stained my lips, so keep that in mind. These do stain your lips, which I don't normally mind. Like, it's kind of nice when your lip color comes off, like that it leaves a stain behind so it still looks like you kind of have something on your lips. So yeah, here is the last shade. So that is everything that comes in the Colourpop Neon collection. I do feel like this collection could have used like some fun neon liners. I feel like that would have been a great idea of something to include in this collection. I do think that the eyeshadow palettes are like okay. I don't think these are the best eyeshadow palettes that Colourpop has come out with. I know it's like a neon collection and there's only like one neon in each of the palettes. But as I said earlier, I do kind of like that. I feel like these palettes are more useful for someone like me who likes neutral shades. I don't normally wear like neon or like fully colorful looks unless I'm doing something for like an Instagram look. So I kind of like that these are like neutral palettes with a pop of color. So if I wanted to do a fun look with just one shade, like this eye, I could totally see myself wearing like out and about because it is like a neutral or like warm toned eye with a pop of color on the bottom. So I kind of like that these are a neon palette with only one neon shade. I know a lot of people are so mad about these palettes, as I said earlier, but I don't mind it. I think that my favorite palette out of the three is probably the Coral palette. I liked the formula of all of these shades the best. I like that there are 2 shimmer shades, 2 matte shades, and then the neon shade. So this one was probably my favorite. And then I did think that both of these palettes were just okay. If I hadn't been sent these, I wouldn't have bought either of these with my own money. I probably wouldn't have bought any of these just because I have so much Colourpop makeup, but thankfully, I am on the Colourpop PR list, so they did send these to me, but these are just probably tied. I don't really like one of these palettes more than the other one. Like, these were just okay. The browns in these palettes were, like, just okay. They didn't blend the best, so I don't know. These weren't my favorite. I actually did really like all 3 shades of the lip oils. I think that Colourpop has a really nice lip oil formula, so I would recommend these. I think that the most wearable shade is obviously the coral shade, and then both of the pinks are more like bright, fun shades that are a little bit more out there. So do I think you guys need any of these palettes? No, I don't think you need any of these. You probably already have a neutral Colourpop palette in your collection, and that's what these are. They are neutral Colourpop palettes with one pop of color in it. If that's something that you like, then I think that these are a good palette to get. Colourpop always has good quality shadows, so I don't think that these are bad, but if you're looking for a neon palette, you're not going to find it with these palettes. You would have to get all three to get 3 neon shades, so I would just get a neon palette from another brand, as I said earlier, if you're looking for a neon palette. And if you want a neutral palette with a fun pop of color, then you might like these. So while I do like this Colourpop collection, it's definitely not my favorite that they've come out with. I'm just kind of like neutral, I guess, on this collection. Like, I don't love it, I don't hate it, I just think that it's okay. I definitely see what they were trying to do here, and I'm not mad about it. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this collection in the comments down below. I always love to hear your thoughts. So that is it for today's video. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Also, make sure you guys have your notifications turned on, that way you don't miss out on any of my future videos. All you have to do is click the bell next to the subscribe button, and then you'll receive a notification every time I upload a new video. And I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching.